Hey, so I'm driving back from my brokerage in Jacksonville, heading to an appointment, and I wanted to make a quick video about the election results. I'm obviously disappointed, flustered, scared, worried, and talking to other people that are too. And we could talk about so many things about that election and about the implications of a Trump victory for policy, international policy, domestic policy, tax spending, and social programs, and on down the line. And a lot of that would be alarming talk from a perspective like mine. And but instead of all that, like that's for later. For now, the question I think more is, how did this happen, and what does this mean about us? It's easy to get into the technical details or what have you, but we don't know whether Project 2025 will come to fruition, or how much of it, or whether he'll hold on to power or do the things he says he would do. But we know that that type of talk was effective. We know that his legal challenges worked in his favor, not against him. So somebody like me was obviously hoping that Vice President Harris would become President Harris. I really wanted that. And even though I may see character flaws in her, or I might think, oh, I wish she would do this policy, and especially Israel and things like that, change that Israel policy, tamp down the saber rattling in the world. She would have had quite a monumental task on her hands. But I definitely wanted that, and I wanted her victory to be a repudiation of Trump and Trumpism. And it was not, because she didn't have the victory. I guess you could look at it and say a couple things like, hey, at least it appears that nobody cheated. And I definitely thought that had it been very close, that we would have had some monkey business on the Trump side. And then that might have been a cloudy thing where people said, well, yeah, but Biden did it last time and now we're doing it. And how come you're holding us accountable when he didn't? And that could have been a mess that created a bunch of problems in who's who, what's what, who's telling the truth. It's messy. Every election will now have interference, or those types of concerns, and that appears to not have happened. So in that didn't happen, we can just say, okay, well, Trump won fair and square. And then if you kind of do full stop there, you can say, well, fair and square in the sense that more people voted for him. But you could also dig into and say, wait a second, it's not fair and square when this person has been threatening people to vote for him, or Elon Musk has been offering a lottery to vote for him, or using misleading information, or maybe this person never should have been president or been able to run again in the first place because of the crimes he committed. So I definitely say the fair and square with an asterisk by it, because it means that there apparently wasn't any literal physical election interference or chicanery, but the last 10 years are full of events and choices and decisions that influenced the previous election, the one before that, and this one. And at this point, I would argue, obviously, that Trump should not have been allowed to even run or been on ballots in the states, and should have been disqualified, should have been held accountable legally earlier, should have been in prison, should have had more convictions and things like that. So that's a real big asterisk. Should have had 3 Supreme Court nominations, and all the levels of bullshit that are on top of this. But I'm glad that it appears that the literal election wasn't compromised, because then we buy into, and the liberal Democrats will say, okay, we give, we cede, this is how you do it, you cede to the guy. And then if and when Trump and Trumpism prove to be disgusting, horrible things, and that his behaviors, his attempts at consolidating and holding on to power, at punishing his enemies, and etc., come true, we can say, hey, this is the actual reality of what you wanted. This is what you wanted, and look how disgusting it is. Now, that'll be a small victory too if everybody gets sent off to camps, and or if things escalate like they often do with fascism into actual killing, into wars, into economic hardship, into in-crowd, out-crowd kind of stuff. which is all possible, but at least the people who voted for that and brought that about would say, aha, I see, I was misled. One way or another, um, the spell has to be broken. I guess you could have 1,000-year Reich like Hitler wanted, and things would go on with Trump and his followers and his offspring running things, and I guess that's a possibility. But like with the real Hitler and the real Nazi Germany, it all came crashing down within 15 years. He was elected in 32 after the Great Depression, after World War One, and Germany's licking its wounds, and Trump comes in and says, yeah, this is the Jews' fault, and I can make the trains run on time, and let's bring our national pride back. And it wasn't until 38 that Jews were being rounded up and mistreated. And again, I'll get my numbers wrong, but clearly there was a progression that took years and years, where Trump was where Hitler was consolidating power, and it didn't just say, okay, 1932, thanks for electing me, and let's open up these camps where we're going to burn people. No, this took a long time to foment the anger and to brainwash the people. And so, but if you look, Trump's had about 9 years now to brainwash enough of the population to actually win. It appears the popular vote, if I'm correct. And that's a monumental task. But go back further, Trump has also been working on us, many of us that have been alive long enough, for decades. His father was in business in the 50s. Trump's been doing stuff since the 70s. And I've known him, and a lot of people my age, almost 50, have known him since the 80s, when he was trying to tell us that he was this playboy and he was this financial genius and this real estate mogul and all the things, self-made billionaire, which is absolute horseshit, of course. So he's gotten his opportunity to work on us far longer than Hitler got to work on the nation he lived in, based on the difference in time and et cetera. So as we're looking at a Trump presidency, we're saying, gosh, a second Trump presidency, after we're all worn out as can be, after almost 10 years of dealing with him, and to have 4 more, and maybe who knows how long more, is wild. It's a wild proposition. And at least, though, where I got off on a tangent there was this idea that that we're under a spell, or obviously that the followers are under a spell, and that spell will be broken one way or another. And that Nazi Germany's spell was broken when they lost the war. That war started in 41. They're attacking neighbors and rolling through Europe and having some success, but it wasn't long before that stopped being successful too, and it got ugly pretty quick for Germany, and especially when America came in 42 and started assisting and fighting back. And so Russia was coming from the east and America was coming from the west, and by 45 Hitler was dead in a bunker. World War II was over in Europe, and then later on in Japan. The whole thing was over in 45. So former Nazi sympathizing Germans or regular folks saw the pictures of the concentration camps and said they didn't know, and they were aghast. These were educated, good people who had been under the spell of fascism and demagoguery and etc. So how does the spell break in America? A lot of the liberal or formerly conservative, formerly Republican pundits were saying, hey, Kamala Harris is going to win, the spell's going to be broken, Trumpism's about dead, and they were absolutely wrong. But what they were right about is that it'll come to a conclusion one way or another. We thought it might be a civil war if Trump lost. We thought that people would just realize, hey, we were crazy, and look at how good Kamala Harris is doing. I don't know that I thought that they would go down so easy, that there might be like the Civil War pitched battle thing, or it would rear its head again. But at least Trump himself would probably be dead or something by the next time somebody, there was another election, or he'd be so old and feeble that he wouldn't want to, or have the ability to run, or he'd be in prison, or he'd just be shamed, or whatever it is. But obviously the spell has been cast, and it's been going on so long that enough people said, hey, I'm going to vote for this anyway, or I'm going to vote against what I believe here because it's going to lower my taxes, or I'm not going to tell you, I'm going to say I'm going to vote for him, or vote for her and really vote for him, or I'm going to sit this one out, or whatever it was. But it was enough to make him win a majority, which is really surprising to me, even though I knew it was going to be close. So my question is, how does the spell break? Does the spell break by Trump successfully doing what he said he's going to do, and having it be an absolute terror when you say, gosh, somebody I knew was sent to one of these migrant camps, or this nationwide abortion ban caused my daughter to die, or real stuff, or gosh, I'm a senior, I'm 75 years old and I'm retiring, and they took away my Social Security, or they took away my Medicare, and I needed that, and I've been duped. Damn it, I'm so sorry, I've been duped. We'll do whatever we can. And then somehow he loses the election and isn't able to consolidate power, and he loses and he leaves office like any other president would. So it's hard to say how this will end. Does Trump stay in power and become a dictator, and everybody kind of gets in line? But eventually it ends. I mean, eventually there's a world war or something like that. And I have all these ideas and thoughts about what goes wrong when Trump becomes president, or why it was needed that he lose, for the environment, for women's rights, for the economy, for the poor, for the disenfranchised, and just all of the above. For us to be a democracy still, all of that is in the balance now. I can't believe how weary I was about Trump and Trumpism, and how I was just almost stopped writing about it and all the things, and now it's like it's day one. And I was looking at a post on Facebook that was a meme from Thich Nhat Hanh, and when people were saying, hey, how do you do this? How do you not worry, and how do you find peace in times like this? And it said, well, I can't let the worry take over my heart, because I won't be able to help. And I thought, wow, Buddhism is about being in reality, and is about recontextualizing suffering, and is about accepting and embracing the actual reality you're in. And I'm in an actual reality where I've got pain issues and headache issues and financial issues and psycho-emotional issues like anybody and everybody else, and PTSD and ADD and all this stuff. And yet I've found a patriotism in me awakened that I never knew I had. I wasn't not patriotic, but I just thought that patriotism was a thing for conservatives, or a thing for people in the military, or people waving a flag, and that it was like nationalism, that it was about the nation against other nations, and that it was for other people, and that I was more of a hippie, and I didn't realize the actual patriotism in my heart, and that hippie thing is patriotic, and that to speak against those who would lord their power is patriotic. I didn't understand that, and that's what America is. And so I do look at myself and say, gosh, I do have the spirit of what America is, or at least the promise of what America is. And I really thought that a Kamala Harris presidency would bring about, at least symbolically, the promise of the nation itself. Even a woman can be president. A black man was already president. This woman is educated, worked hard, is knowledgeable, worked her way up from, being an attorney to a prosecutor, and to attorney general in a state that was big, and then the senator from that state. That's a big deal. There's only two of those. And then to be the vice president, where you have a hand in all these things, but you're not in charge yet. And I thought, man, this is just how it should work. And then all these women would suddenly feel enfranchised. And all these black people and Indian people would say, hey, somebody that looks like me, somebody from my nation, from with my history, could be and can be president, and she's competent and she seems good. And I thought, man, this would just be such a perfect feel good moment. And the fact that that didn't happen is kind of what Buddhism is for. I'm not a Buddhist per se, but that it's about, here's the actual reality. What do we do with the actual reality? And for me, I'm going to not obsess about a Trump presidency, but I'm not going to hide from it. And I'm not going to pretend it didn't happen. And I'm still going to be a patriot. And because what he represents is not America, and what the spell that he's put all those people under is not patriotism. And if I'm wrong and he does really good and everything works out great, I'll say shut my mouth. But I just couldn't imagine, with all the crimes he's committed, with all the terrible things he's said and done, and with the hatred and division that he's fomented, that those things will come of it. But hey, I guess stranger things have happened. We don't know what the future is, but I'm here for my friends who are scared and sad and worried. And I guess our battle is just beginning, and I'm up for it. I'm up to do whatever it takes to make our nation truly serve the people that are its actual constituents, to serve the poor and downtrodden, to expand what it means to be free, and to fight against stuff like people trying to tell women what they can do in their body, and deport all these people that do have a right to be here, to take away gay people's right to get married, and all the things that are so un-American about Trumpism. I'm not going to fall under that spell. Not 4 years from now, not 10 years from now. I'm not going to play along. I'm not going to pretend that I like this, that this is okay. And I think the rest of you have to, toughen up with me and just say, like, you're never going to stop me from being patriotic. You're never going to stop me from making sense about this. You're never going to stop me from being kind to my neighbors. You're never going to stop me from fighting for the actual ideals of this nation. And I remember in, I love the Avengers. I love kind of those superhero movies. I always find them motivating and clarifying, and I get excited. I come out of there feeling like, hey, I want to be the superhero in my life. And Captain America would always say, I can do this all day, when getting beaten before he had his powers, and when he got them, and fighting multiple people or whatever. And I guess that's the spirit that I want to bring to this. It's like, I can do this all day. I can do this for 4 more years or 40 more years. Our revolution was fought by people who died in the woods with no shoes on, with a musket in their hand for us. They gave everything for us. And if we have to give everything for the next generation, for my girlfriend's little daughter to be free, then whatever it takes. I don't want that. I want to be on the beach. I want to be writing. I want to be playing my guitar and my drums and my band, and chill and riding my bike and going to the gym and yoga and petting my cats. But if we've got to be soldiers in a way that I don't want to be, that I'm not prepared for, and that I wasn't trained for, then so be it. Whatever it takes to make this actual place what it's supposed to be for the people that live here, for the people that have less of a voice than me and have less privilege than me, then I will do that. I will do my duty. I'm not going to sit here and bitch and complain about how terrible this is and how terrible half of our nation is for choosing this. I'm just going to keep going. I can do this all day long. And I think we all have to have that attitude now, is that, like, this is the long haul. We're just getting started in the battle for the soul of our nation. And we can band together, we can talk, communicate, we can commiserate, we can plan, whatever we do, but we can't despair. And you have to just find the strength within, whether it's a spiritual strength, whether it's God as you know God, whether it's with your friends, whether it's with knowledge, whether it's reading writings by our forefathers. I don't know what it is, whether it's meditation or quotes from Thich Nhat Hanh or whoever you got. Whatever you got to dig in and find it, because we can all just despair and give up. But people created this nation and fought for this nation with their lives. And we have to be willing to do that. And I am willing. I hope you are too.